Get your dirty hands off that counter before I call the cops. The voice hit the lobby like a slap. Guests turned, forks paused mid-air, and the grand piano player missed a note. Gregory Hunt, the night manager of the Sterling Grand Chicago, had just snatched a sleek black card from a woman's fingers and slammed it onto the marble floor. Then, with a look of theatrical disgust, he crushed it beneath the polished heel of his shoe. The metal card scraped softly against the stone. The sound was small, but everyone heard it. The woman, Amara Lewis, did not speak. Her jeans were clean but plain, her sneakers simple, her white shirt tucked neatly into a travel-worn bag. Nothing about her looked like the kind of guest Gregory liked to see in his lobby at 10:38 at night. "Ma'am," he said with a grin that wasn't really a smile, "I'm not sure where you found this card, but it doesn't belong here. This hotel caters to a different crowd." From behind the desk, the young receptionist, Clara Hayes, gave an uncertain laugh. "Should I grab the mop, Greg? The floor's going to need a clean after that." A few guests chuckled quietly, relieved that the tension wasn't aimed at them. Amara bent down, picked up the card, and dusted it with her sleeve. "I have a reservation," she said evenly. "Penthouse suite, Lewis. Confirmation number's on my phone." Gregory tilted his head, mocking curiosity. "You do realize that room costs over $3,000 a night?" "I do." "Well," he said, gesturing at the chandeliers above, "you see anyone else here dressed for Walmart?" Lena Park, the assistant manager, arrived just in time to hear the last line. She glanced at Amara, then at Gregory, and sighed. "We'll need a photo ID," she said. "Government issued." Amara handed it over. Lena turned the card in her fingers, checking the light, the texture, the hologram. She even sniffed it before returning it with a frown. "Could be fake. You know how advanced counterfeiting is these days." "Call security," Gregory ordered. The digital clock on the wall read 10:42. Amara looked at it briefly. 6 minutes until her conference call with Tokyo. 6 minutes to finish what had already become a spectacle. Across the lobby, a young woman named Renee Park angled her phone discreetly, whispering into her live stream. "I'm at the Sterling Grand Chicago," she told her growing audience. "This manager's losing it on a guest who literally just showed her ID. Watch this." The viewer count blinked upward. 100, 200, 500. Comments started rolling in. "Record everything. This looks bad. What year is this again?" Gregory's voice carried like a performer's. "You think a screenshot proves anything? Anyone can fake an email. Do you even know how this place works?" He pointed toward the chandeliers, the Italian marble, the flowers worth more than a month's rent. "This isn't some motel off the highway. This is Sterling Grand." "Then you should know your own policy," Amara said softly. Gregory blinked. "Excuse me?" "Employee Handbook," she replied. "Section 14.3. The security guard arrived, a tall man named Andre Collins, calm-eyed and steady. "What's going on?" he asked. Gregory didn't hesitate. "Possible fraud? She's trying to check into the penthouse with a fake reservation." Andre looked at Amara. Something in her expression, a quiet certainty, made him pause. "Ma'am, can you show me your confirmation?" She slid her phone forward. The screen showed an email with the hotel's logo, timestamp, confirmation number, and her full name. Before Andre could answer, Lena whispered sharply, "Greg, I just got a message from corporate. They're asking about an incident, something trending on social media." "What incident?" he snapped. "The one we're standing in." Renee's live stream ticked past 1,000 viewers. In the chat, people typed furiously, "Call the news. Sterling Grand trending. Unbelievable." Malcolm Reed, a business consultant staying on the 24th floor, stepped forward from the bar. "I've been watching this for 10 minutes, he said. "I think the fraud here isn't coming from her side of the counter." Gregory's face flushed crimson. "Sir, this is a private matter." "Nothing's private when you've got an audience of 1,000, Malcolm said calmly. "And it's about to be more." The temperature in the room shifted. Andre took a slow breath. He opened the handbook on his tablet, scrolling until he found the section Amara had mentioned. His voice was steady when he read aloud. Section 14.3. Immediate termination for discriminatory behavior based on race, gender, religion, or perceived economic status. For a moment, the only sound in the lobby was the hum of the air conditioner. Clara glanced at her computer screen and swallowed hard. "Greg, there have been 15 complaints filed about this location in the last few months." Gregory spun toward her. "What?" "They're in your name," she whispered. Lena's phone vibrated again. Corporate's message was clearer now. "Monitor incident live. Respond immediately. Potential policy breach." Gregory's hand shook slightly as he reached for his tie. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, but his voice was smaller now. Amara checked the time. 10:49, 1 minute left. She reached into her bag, pulling out a slim leather folder. The gesture was slow, deliberate, graceful. "Before you make your next mistake," she said, "I suggest you finish reading that policy, Officer Collins. It's about consequences." Andre looked from her to the handbook again, eyes narrowing in understanding. The guests leaned forward, phones lifted higher. Renee's live count climbed past 3,000. Amara's gaze was calm, almost gentle. "You said this hotel caters to a different crowd," she said. "You were right. And in less than 10 minutes, you're going to learn which crowd I belong to." The clock struck 10:50. The lobby held its breath. The moment froze, suspended like the quiet between lightning and thunder. For a few long breaths, no one moved. Then Gregory exhaled sharply, forcing a smile that trembled at the edges. "Ma'am," he said, his voice trying to reclaim authority. "You can quote all the policies you want, but this is private property, and I'm still the manager here tonight." Amara's gaze stayed steady. "Not for much longer," she said softly. The line landed without volume, but it cut through the room like glass under pressure. Andre Collins shifted his stance. He wasn't sure what was happening, but his instincts told him this wasn't just another argument about a reservation. The woman in front of him had the poise of someone who didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. The digital clock over the counter glowed in quiet indifference. 10:51. 5 minutes until her call with Tokyo. 5 minutes until everything about this lobby would change. Gregory straightened his suit jacket. "All right, miss. Since you seem to enjoy theatrics, let's make this official. I'm calling the police. Fraud, harassment, whatever fits best. You'll spend the night somewhere a little less comfortable than our penthouse." He began to dial. Lena tried to whisper something, but her voice cracked. "Gregory, maybe just wait." He waved her off. "You're too soft, Lena. That's why guests walk all over you." Renee Park's live stream viewership climbed again. 4,000, then 6. Comments flew across her screen. "This is going to blow up. Corporate better step in. She's too calm. Something's coming." Amara looked at Gregory and smiled. It wasn't unkind. Call whoever you need. But before you do, perhaps you should check the reservation under my name again. You might find it still active." Clara hesitated, then turned back to her computer. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, uncertain. She searched the system, and when the name appeared, her breath caught. It's there," she said. "Penthouse suite paid in full, 6 nights, corporate account." Gregory frowned. "That can't be right. Who would pay that kind of money for—" He stopped himself, realizing too late how his sentence sounded. "Someone you just called a criminal," Malcolm Reed said dryly from his seat by the bar. He had pulled his chair around to face the counter, his phone recording steadily. "I'd suggest you stop talking before you add defamation to your resume." Andre took one cautious step closer to Amara. "Ma'am," he said, "do you want me to de-escalate this?" Amara shook her head. "No need. It's already happening." At that moment, Lena's phone vibrated again, an incoming message from corporate headquarters. The subject line flashed, "Urgent, public relations incident. Confirm details immediately." Her voice trembled as she read the next line aloud. "They're asking about a discrimination complaint, Chicago location, night shift. It says monitoring live feed for evidence." Gregory's color drained from his face. "They can't be watching. They'd need authorization." "They don't," Amara replied, her tone still measured. "When a company's brand starts trending for the wrong reasons, authorization becomes secondary." Lena turned her phone so he could see it. The official Sterling Hotel's social media account was flooded with comments. "Is this your standard of hospitality? Fire your manager before sunrise. Sterling scandal trending worldwide." Gregory grabbed his tie again, pulling at the knot as though it were choking him. "I'll handle this," he muttered, though his voice betrayed him. Renee's camera caught everything, the way the color left his skin, the tremor in his hands. "You're live to 10,000 people now," she whispered. "Better smile." The irony was that Amara didn't have to say another word. Her stillness was enough. The seconds ticked away. 10:52, 10:53. The sound of the clock seemed louder with every passing minute. Then Amara spoke quietly, more to Andre than to anyone else. "Officer Collins, would you please read the second paragraph of section 14.3? Andre scrolled again. His voice was low, but it carried through the lobby. "Any employee found guilty of discriminatory behavior faces immediate termination without severance pay and may be held personally liable for reputational damages to the company." The silence that followed was complete. Amara adjusted the strap of her bag. "That policy was updated 6 months ago," she said. "I wrote the revision myself." Gregory blinked, confused. "You, what?" "I'm sure you'll understand soon enough." The lobby doors opened with a soft rush of air as 2 more guests entered, one of them holding his phone, speaking to a reporter on a live call. "Yes," he said. "We're witnessing it right now. It's all being recorded." The light from a dozen screens reflected off the marble floor, bright enough to cast long, sharp shadows. "Ma'am," Andre said cautiously, "who exactly are you?" Amara glanced at the clock again. 10:54, 2 minutes to Tokyo. "Someone who wanted to see how this hotel treats its guests when no one's watching," she answered. Lena swallowed hard. You're from corporate, aren't you?" Amara smiled faintly. "Something like that." Gregory let out a shaky laugh. "You expect me to believe that? A secret inspection? You could be anyone. You could have printed that email yourself." "Perhaps," Amara said, opening her bag again. But you'll see soon. Enough. She pulled out a sleek black tablet, its screen already glowing with a presentation title, Sterling Grand Chicago, Operations Review. The header bore the official corporate logo. Gregory took a step back. Where did you get that? From the same place I got this, she replied, removing a small silver nameplate from the folder. It read, Amara Lewis, Chief Executive Officer, Lewis Ventures. Andre's eyes widened. Lewis Ventures, he repeated. That's the holding company that acquired Sterling Hotels for $920 million, she finished. 6 months ago. The number rolled off her tongue like a verdict. Every guest in the lobby heard it, every camera caught it, and every comment section exploded at once. Gregory stumbled backward, his heel catching on the rug. That's not possible. It's not only possible, Amara said gently. It's public information. You can check the website. Lena fumbled with her phone, typing desperately. Her breath hitched when the screen loaded. The corporate leadership page displayed a professional portrait of Amara, wearing a tailored suit and the same steady expression. Beneath it, majority shareholder, 72% ownership. The color drained completely from Gregory's face. You're her, he whispered. I am, she said simply. And right now, you're being watched by thousands while humiliating your own employer. The clock turned to 10:55. The air in the lobby felt different, thinner, quieter, as though every molecule waited for what would happen next. Amara placed her tablet on the counter, the screen reflecting the chandelier light. Mr. Hunt, she said calmly, the only question left tonight is how you'd like this conversation to end. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Because, she continued, in exactly 5 minutes, I'll be on a call with Tokyo to finalize a deal worth $230 million. And I assure you, they won't have to wait long, unlike me. She picked up her phone, checked the signal, and looked back at Andre. Officer Collins, please stay. You're about to witness an audit in real time. The lobby fell into a silence so heavy it almost hummed. The crowd of guests leaned forward, phones raised, hearts caught between disbelief and awe. Amara adjusted her watch, the minute hand ticking toward the top of the hour. 5 minutes, she repeated quietly. That's all it takes to turn arrogance into accountability. And as the second hand touched 12, she pressed the tablet's screen. The presentation began to glow. The first slide on Amara's tablet illuminated the lobby like a courtroom screen. The title read, Operational Review, Sterling Grand Chicago. The corporate logo shimmered beneath the chandelier light, and every person watching knew something irreversible had begun. Gregory, Hunt's throat tightened. You can't just walk in here and... I can, Amara replied evenly. I own this building, Mr. Hunt. Every chandelier, every piece of marble under your feet, and even that badge on your jacket. Now please step aside. He didn't move. His mouth opened as if to argue, but no sound came. The air itself seemed to press down on him. Andre Collins stood to one side, arms folded across his chest, his eyes calm but alert. He had seen hotel drama before, angry guests, broken reservations, fights over charges, but never a moment like this. Never a moment when authority reversed so completely. Renee Park's live stream view count passed 12,000. Her whisper came through trembling with adrenaline. Everyone watching, she owns the hotel. She literally owns it. The comments came faster than the phone could load. Plot twist of the century. This is better than any TV show. Look at her face. So calm. Amara scrolled to the next slide. Numbers filled the screen, white on black. Monthly revenue has dropped from 1.7 million to 1.3, she said quietly. Guest satisfaction averages 2.1 out of 5. Staff turnover rate, 84%. Each number tells a story, and none of them are flattering. Gregory's mouth fell open. Where did you get those numbers? From the same database you were supposed to update, she replied. The same system that now reports directly to my office. Lena Park's eyes widened. Oh my God, she whispered. Those are internal reports. Amara turned to her. Yes, internal reports about external problems. 48 guest complaints filed at this property since my acquisition. 51 by the end of last week. Do you know what the most common phrase was? Neither Gregory nor Lena answered. She glanced down at the tablet. I was made to feel like I didn't belong. The words came out soft, almost mournful. It's a line I've heard before, and one I never wanted to see written about my own company. For the first time, Gregory looked at her not as an intruder, but as a mirror reflecting his failure. His arrogance seemed to melt into confusion. If you'd just told us who you were, he muttered, I would have... Amara's eyes lifted. You would have treated me better? That's the problem, Mr. Hunt. Respect should never depend on recognition. A low murmur rippled through the guests. The elderly Whitmores sat near the corner, whispering to each other, shame softening their earlier silence. Malcolm Reed crossed his legs and leaned back, his tone cool but impressed. In 20 years of consulting, I've never seen an audit this quick. Amara nodded once. Efficiency is the only language incompetence understands. She clicked to another slide. A graph appeared, lines falling in sharp, downward slopes. Guest return rate, from 75% to 42%. Employee satisfaction, from 80 to 35. Even your housekeeping team, the backbone of any hotel, reports morale at an all-time low. Lena covered her face with both hands. We tried to fix it, she whispered. But Gregory, said complaints weren't real, that people just wanted free upgrades. Amara's tone softened slightly. He said that because it allowed him to ignore the truth. She turned toward Gregory. Do you deny any of this? I didn't know. You knew, she interrupted quietly. You just didn't care. Her calm was heavier than anger. It was the calm of someone used to signing checks that could change lives, of someone who understood that power wasn't volume. It was precision. Andre stepped closer, his voice respectful. Ma'am, do you want me to clear the lobby? No, Amara said. Let them stay. Let them witness what accountability looks like. Tonight isn't about humiliation. It's about transparency. The camera phones rose higher. She turned back to Gregory. Do you remember your last performance review? He swallowed. Yes. Your supervisor rated you 1.9 out of 5. A small gasp moved through the room. You were warned about your conduct 4 times. And do you recall what you said in response? He shook his head weakly. She scrolled to another line of text and read it aloud. If guests don't like how I run this place, they can stay somewhere else. Lena shut her eyes. Clara Hayes, the receptionist, covered her mouth with her hands. And they did, Amara continued. They left. Hundreds of them. Do you know how much that cost this company in 1 quarter? Gregory's silence was answer enough. $280,000 in lost revenue, she said, translating the number carefully so it sounded like an education, not an accusation. All because arrogance was allowed to pose as professionalism. Andre looked down at his phone again, watching corporate notifications appear in real time. The company's official account had just released a statement. Sterling Hotels enforces a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. Further actions pending. Renee caught it on her live feed. "Corporate just confirmed the story," she whispered excitedly. The viewer count surged again, 15,000, then 16. Gregory's hands trembled. He took a small step forward. "Please, Ms. Lewis, Amara lifted a hand, stopping him. "This isn't about apologies. It's about systems, and tonight this system resets." She looked at Andre. "You'll help me supervise this transition, won't you?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, ma'am. Whatever you need." Amara turned back to the guests, her voice steady. "What you witnessed tonight wasn't an isolated mistake. It was a pattern. The question is whether we're brave enough to fix it." The chandelier light caught the silver edges of her tablet, casting bright reflections across the ceiling like ripples of water. Gregory stared at the floor. The power dynamic had shifted so far that his own reflection in the marble seemed like a stranger. "You once told a guest that this was your lobby to protect," Amara said softly. "It never was. It belongs to the people who walk through it and deserve to feel safe." She tapped the screen again. The next slide appeared. 3 short words that made every witness lean forward. "Immediate policy enforcement." Lena looked up, eyes wet. "What does that mean?" Amara met her gaze. "It means we fix this tonight." Her phone buzzed. The call from Tokyo was coming through. She silenced it gently and looked at Gregory one last time. "Some meetings can wait," she said. "But justice can't." The words hung in the air, balanced between calm and finality. Behind her, the hotel's glass doors reflected a city awake with lights and movement, a reminder that the world was still watching. And inside the Sterling Grand, every second felt like a reckoning quietly arriving on time. The glow from Amara's tablet cast soft blue light across the marble counter. She stood as if the entire lobby were her boardroom, her calm steadying the air. For the first time since the confrontation began, the silence didn't belong to Gregory Hunt. It belonged to her. "Mr. Hunt," she said, her voice even. "When I wrote Section 14.3, I knew there would come a day when it would be tested. I didn't expect it would be by one of my own employees." Gregory's lips parted, but no sound came. His tie hung loose now, his confidence leaking away like air from a punctured tire. Andre Collins, the security manager, shifted his stance slightly. His voice was low but respectful. "Ms. Lewis, Section 14.3 is the clause about immediate termination, correct?" Amara nodded. "Immediate termination without severance pay, followed by individual liability for reputational damages. It was created after a lawsuit 2 years ago. I introduced it to protect both guests and employees from discrimination." Her gaze moved slowly around the lobby. "That rule isn't a threat. It's a promise that dignity will never be optional here." The words carried, soft but resonant. Renee Park's camera caught every syllable, and her audience of nearly 20,000 fell silent. Comments stopped scrolling. Hearts on the screen froze mid-animation. Amara turned to Gregory. "Tell me, when you stepped on my card, what did you see? A stranger? A target? Or just someone you thought couldn't answer back?" Gregory's hands trembled. "I made a mistake." "More than one," she said gently. "But the question is whether those mistakes were accidents or habits." Lena Park, the assistant manager, spoke up from behind the desk, her voice cracking. He's not the only one responsible. I went along with it. I laughed. I thought it was harmless. Amara met her eyes. Following cruelty is still cruelty, Ms. Park. The difference between silence and action is what builds or destroys a company. Andre checked his tablet again, the corporate handbook glowing faintly. Section 14.3 requires 2 managerial witnesses for immediate enforcement, he said. Then you and Ms. Park will serve as witnesses, Amara replied. Tonight we'll do this by the book. Gregory looked up sharply. You can't fire me in front of everyone. I'm not firing you, Amara said. You fired yourself the moment you chose contempt over respect. The line landed with quiet force. Even the hotel's background music seemed to dim, as though the building itself were listening. Clara Hayes, the receptionist, stepped forward hesitantly. Ma'am, I laughed too. I didn't mean to. I was nervous. Amara regarded her for a long moment. Nervousness is human, she said softly. But the measure of a person isn't what they feel in fear. It's what they do with it. You have a chance to decide who you are after tonight. Clara blinked rapidly, tears forming. I want to do better. That's a start. Amara turned the tablet toward the wall display screen. The next slide appeared. Incident impact projection. A bar chart unfolded in muted colors. Based on our legal department's analysis, she continued, this single night could cost Sterling Hotels more than $6 million in potential settlements, brand loss, and declining reservations. But money isn't the point. The cost of trust is harder to calculate. She paused, letting the weight of her words fill the space. Trust, once broken, is a currency no company can afford to lose. Malcolm Reed nodded quietly from his seat. That's a lesson most leaders forget, he said. You just turned it into a masterclass. Amara offered him a small, almost tired smile. I'd rather never have to teach it again. Gregory lowered his head. Ms. Lewis, please. I have a family. I didn't know who you were. Amara's tone didn't change. You didn't need to know who I was to treat me with decency. That's the point of every policy in that handbook you ignored. The chandelier above them flickered slightly, its crystals casting shifting patterns across the ceiling like moving stars. Lena swallowed. What happens now? Amara glanced at Andre. Now we follow procedure. Mr. Hunt, per section 14.3, you're being placed on immediate suspension pending termination review. Your access cards and accounts will be deactivated within the hour. Gregory's knees seemed to buckle. Please, just let me apologize publicly. I'll tell the world this was a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding, Amara said, her tone calm as glass. It was a moment of truth. The line struck deeper than anger ever could. Renee's phone buzzed as comments began flooding back in. She's incredible. This is history. Dignity wins. Amara looked around the lobby, her gaze softening slightly. Tonight, you've all seen what accountability looks like. Tomorrow, you'll see what reform feels like. Andre nodded. Should I escort him out? Not yet, Amara said. He'll leave when I finish this conversation. She stepped closer to Gregory, her expression thoughtful rather than cruel. You've worked here 3 years. You've trained new hires, signed off on reports, represented this brand. I'm giving you 60 seconds to decide how your name appears in the record. You can resign quietly, or you can be terminated for cause. Either way, this ends tonight. Gregory's breath came shallow and uneven. 60 seconds? 50 now, she said simply. Lena stared at her phone, the timer ticking down. The lobby was so quiet that the faint hum of the air system sounded like wind through a tunnel. At 30 seconds, Gregory whispered, "I resign." Amara nodded once. "Then sign it." She slid a digital form across the screen. The signature line glowed softly. He pressed his trembling finger to the tablet. The confirmation beep echoed softly through the lobby, a sound of finality disguised as technology. When it was done, Amara turned to Andre. "File it immediately." "Yes, ma'am." Gregory looked up, pale and drained. Will I get another chance somewhere else?" "Perhaps," Amara said quietly. "But that depends on whether you learn that power without empathy is poverty." He didn't answer. He just lowered his head and walked away, the sound of his shoes fading down the marble hallway. The crowd exhaled collectively. Renee's voice whispered to her viewers, "He's gone." Amara looked at Lena. "You stayed silent when you could have spoken. But silence is easier to unlearn than cruelty. You'll start retraining tomorrow. I suggest you come prepared to listen." Lena nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Yes, ma'am." Amara turned to the guests. "Everyone here tonight will receive a personal apology from the company, along with a follow-up survey. I expect honesty. Tell us how we made you feel, and how we can do better." The Whitmores nodded from their corner, visibly relieved. Malcolm closed his notebook, murmuring, "That's leadership." The digital clock read 11:15. The tension had broken, but something new was forming. A quiet kind of reverence. Amara glanced once more at her tablet, then at the guests. "We all just witnessed a chapter in this company's story. Tomorrow, I'll start writing the next one." Her voice softened, and it will begin with 3 words that should have never needed writing. Every guest matters. The line lingered like a slow exhale, wrapping the lobby in calm. Outside, Chicago lights shimmered on the glass doors, reflecting a city, still awake, still watching, as if it too was waiting for change to keep its promise. For a moment, no one in the lobby moved. The marble floor caught the faint tremor of footsteps fading into silence, and the sound of Gregory Hunt's departure lingered like an echo. Amara stood still, her reflection flickering across the counter's glass surface. The crowd of guests remained frozen in a strange mixture of awe and uncertainty, as if they had witnessed something both humiliating and sacred. The digital clock above the elevator read 11:20. Amara adjusted her sleeve, lifted her tablet, and drew in a quiet breath. "Let's continue," she said. "Transparency isn't optional, it's the only way forward." She tapped the screen, and the next slide appeared. A photograph filled the display, her own portrait, sharp and professional, against a dark background. The caption beneath it read, "Amara Lewis, Chief Executive Officer, Lewis Ventures, Majority Shareholder, 72% Ownership." A ripple of surprise moved through the room. Lena Park covered her mouth. Clara Hayes whispered, "It's really her." Renee Park whispered into her phone, "She's showing the corporate website, you guys. That's her photo, the one from the press release." Her voice shook slightly, her excitement mixing with disbelief. "She actually owns the whole chain." Malcolm Reed let out a soft laugh that wasn't mocking. It was relief. "You know," he said, "I've spent years watching people in suits talk about ethics, but tonight a woman in sneakers just redefined what power looks like." Amara smiled faintly. "Thank you, Mr. Reed. I don't usually dress for symbolism, but I suppose tonight it found me anyway." The faint humor in her tone lightened the air. Even Lena managed a shaky laugh, wiping her eyes. "I can't believe this," she whispered. Amara turned the tablet back toward herself. "Believe it. It's all public record." She swiped to another image. The official acquisition statement from 6 months earlier, dated March 16, 2025. The headline read, "Lewis Ventures finalizes acquisition of Sterling Hotel Group for $920 million. She translated the number softly as she spoke. $920 million, 890 properties across 23 countries. A brand that should have represented inclusion, but instead too often represented exclusion. Her voice was calm, not accusatory. This chain was supposed to be a model of modern hospitality. Instead, it has become a case study in how culture rots from indifference. Lena bowed her head. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Lewis." "I don't want apologies," Amara said quietly. "I want results. Words are easy. Change is work." Andre Collins stepped forward slightly, his tone steady. "What's the next step, ma'am?" Amara nodded to him. "Now we turn accountability into structure." She switched to a new slide. Phase 1, internal audit. Charts and graphs illuminated the wall. "This property has received 51 verified discrimination complaints in 3 months, she said, her tone even, almost analytical. 17 named employees were cited, but only 3 were ever disciplined. That pattern ends tonight." Clara swallowed hard. That's a lot of complaints." "Yes," Amara said softly. "And every one of them tells a story about someone who walked through these doors expecting warmth, but found judgment instead." The guests shifted uneasily, some lowering their phones. A heavy awareness filled the space, pressing against the polished air of the luxury lobby. Amara continued, "When I acquired this company, I reviewed every internal report. I saw numbers like profit margins, occupancy rates, and guest retention. But what I didn't see, what was missing, were metrics for basic humanity. So I added them myself." She turned the tablet again, showing a list labeled Human Dignity Metrics. The categories included respectful interaction score, complaint resolution time, staff accountability ratio. These are the measurements that will determine every promotion, every raise, every future leadership opportunity within this company, she explained. From this night forward, courtesy isn't a courtesy, it's policy. Malcolm let out a low whistle. "That's revolutionary." Amara smiled faintly. "It's overdue." The chandelier lights reflected off her tablet, glinting across her face like scattered stars. For a moment, the room seemed suspended in that light, a vision of change standing quietly among those who had once looked down on her. Lena wiped her eyes again. "Ms. Lewis, I don't deserve to work here after tonight." Amara shook her head. "Deserving isn't static, Ms. Park. It's built through the choices we make next. You'll stay, you'll learn, and if you grow from this, you'll teach others." Lena nodded weakly. "Yes, ma'am." Amara looked toward Clara. "You'll assist her. Starting tomorrow morning, both of you will attend the first retraining session led by our diversity consultant. The focus will be on empathy, equity, and accountability." Clara bit her lip. "I understand." Andre's voice was quiet but sure. "What about the rest of the team, ma'am?" "We'll review everyone," Amara said. "By sunrise, an interim management team will arrive. Until then, you're in charge of maintaining order. If there's any misconduct tonight, report it directly to me." Andre nodded. "Yes, ma'am. You can count on me." Renee turned her camera briefly toward him, whispering, Security guy just got promoted live. Amara heard but didn't react. She scrolled again to a final slide. Public relations response. This will go viral, she said simply. It already has. So we face it head on. By morning, our statement will go live across every platform. She read from the draft. Sterling Hotels reaffirms its zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. The incident in Chicago represents a failure in training, oversight, and empathy. The individuals responsible have been removed. Reforms begin immediately. Her eyes moved across the faces in the lobby. The world doesn't want perfection. It wants proof that people can change. Tonight, we begin proving it. A hush fell again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was respect. Malcolm stood and offered a small nod. If you ever run for office, Ms. Lewis, I'd vote for you. She laughed softly. I have enough meetings to attend without adding elections. The sound of laughter, light, nervous, genuine, rippled through the space, breaking the tension like a breath after holding it too long. Amara turned off the tablet and looked around. For now, I'd like every guest in this room to know this. What happened tonight will not be swept away. We will rebuild this brand from the inside out. Renee lowered her phone, her voice hushed but awed. She's changing everything right here, right now. Amara gathered her things, sliding the tablet back into her bag. It's time I make that call to Tokyo, she said quietly. I kept them waiting long enough. But first, I needed to clean my own house. As she moved toward the elevator, every person in the lobby instinctively stepped aside, not out of fear, but out of respect. The same marble that had once reflected humiliation now caught the light of dignity walking past. The elevator doors opened. Amara turned slightly, her voice carrying like a calm breeze. The real work starts tomorrow. Tonight was just the audit. The doors closed, and the lobby was left in a silence that no longer felt heavy. It felt like possibility. When the elevator doors closed behind her, Amara did not go up to the penthouse right away. She stayed for a moment in the mirrored interior, her reflection multiplied into quiet versions of herself. The floor indicator glowed gold as the elevator hummed upward, but she pressed a button to stop it halfway. She needed to breathe before continuing. There was still one conversation left unfinished. She stepped out on the mezzanine overlooking the lobby. From that height, the chandeliers looked like frozen rain, and the voices below floated upward like fragments of confession. Andre Collins was speaking softly to Lena Park and Clara Hayes. The two women nodded, their posture heavy but open. The guests had mostly dispersed, though a few remained, whispering about what they had just witnessed. Amara descended the grand staircase slowly, her heels soft against the carpeted steps. Renee Park's phone was still recording, but now her tone was reverent rather than shocked. She's back, Renee murmured to her audience. She didn't even go to her suite. She's coming down to finish this. When Amara reached the lobby again, she addressed the small remaining crowd. Before I leave tonight, she said, there's one more truth to share. She placed her leather bag on the counter and drew out a folder sealed with the sterling crest. Inside were printed pages, complaint forms, performance logs, and emails. These, she said, are what I call the receipts, the kind that don't lie. Andre leaned closer, glancing at the top page. Guest incident reports, he said quietly. Amara nodded. Each of these tells a story, not about profits or occupancy, but about behavior. She opened the first file. Entry number 1. A guest named Valerie Bennett reported being asked if she could afford her room before check-in. Date: January 10th. Handled by the night manager. No corrective action taken. Lena closed her eyes, recognizing the date. Entry number 24, Amara continued, turning another page. A business traveler described being followed by security because he didn't look like our typical client. March 3rd. Same shift, same staff. Her tone never rose. It was quiet, methodical, the way a surgeon might explain an operation. The truth didn't need drama. It carried its own gravity. These reports, she said, were not accidents. They were ignored patterns, and the cost is measurable. Between lost guests, settlements, and brand decline, the Chicago branch alone has generated $6.2 million in preventable losses. She pronounced each word slowly so the number could settle in the room like a verdict. Renee whispered to her live stream, 6.2 million. That's what discrimination costs in real time. Amara continued. But money can be replaced. Dignity cannot. Every time someone is humiliated in this lobby, we lose more than profit. We lose principle. She lifted another paper. Here's something else the reports show. The highest rating for any night shift manager in guest satisfaction was 2.3 out of 5. The lowest was 1.2. Industry standard is 4.2. Her gaze moved from Lena to Clara. You see what that means? It means people noticed. It means guests were trying to tell us long before I walked in tonight. Lena spoke softly. Why didn't corporate act sooner? Amara looked at her without anger. Because they were waiting for data, not stories. They wanted graphs, not emotion. But the truth is, sometimes it takes one human story to wake a company faster than 1,000 spreadsheets. Malcolm Reed, still seated by the bar, nodded slowly. You just turned this into the most expensive leadership seminar in the country. Amara smiled faintly. Then let's make sure it's worth the tuition. She turned the pages toward Andre. You'll oversee the collection of all existing reports. Every incident, every complaint, every witness statement. By sunrise, I want them digitized and forwarded to headquarters. We'll publish a transparency report by week's end. Yes, ma'am, Andre said. I'll get it done. Amara then looked to Renee. You're streaming this to thousands, correct? Renee nodded quickly. 25,000 and climbing. Good, Amara said. Then let them all hear this. Accountability is not revenge. It's repair. The crowd fell quiet again, phones lowering slightly out of respect. Amara spoke directly to the camera. For those watching, understand this isn't about a hotel. It's about any place where prejudice hides behind politeness. It can happen in a store, in an office, in a classroom. It happens when someone decides another person's worth before hearing their voice. She let the silence breathe before adding, the purpose of leadership is not to punish the guilty, but to protect the future. Tonight, we start protecting it. Lena, still near the counter, whispered, You make it sound simple. Amara shook her head. Simple isn't the same as easy. Change never is. She gathered the papers and slid them neatly back into the folder. Tomorrow, this building will not open until I finish reviewing every department head. That includes housekeeping, dining, and guest relations. No one is exempt. Andre tilted his head. Even me, ma'am? Especially you, Amara said gently. You questioned what was happening tonight. That's leadership, but it's also responsibility. I'll need your eyes open even wider now. Andre nodded slowly. Understood. Clara hesitated, then spoke. Ms. Lewis, may I ask something? Of course. When you walked in earlier, Clara said, and they treated you like that, why didn't you say who you were right away? Amara's expression softened. Because I wanted to see what they saw. If a system only works when someone announces their title, it's already broken. Her words settled deep, a line the listeners on Renee's stream would quote again and again. She closed the folder and tapped it lightly against the counter. These are the receipts, but tomorrow we write the balance sheet of reform. The elevator chimed softly, signaling that it had returned for her. She looked once more at the people around her, the staff, the guests, the witnesses. You've seen what happens when silence is mistaken for safety, she said. Now let's see what happens when action replaces it. Andre stepped forward to escort her, but she stopped him with a gesture. Stay. This place needs you more than I need company upstairs. He gave a quiet salute of acknowledgement. As she entered the elevator, Renee's voice narrated softly to her audience. She didn't yell. She didn't threaten. She just brought facts like they were truth wrapped in calm. The doors closed, sealing the echo of that final image. A woman carrying a folder of evidence, ascending not just floors, but history. The lobby lights dimmed automatically for the night, and for the first time in years, the silence there felt clean. The clock above the reception desk glowed softly against the ceiling. 11 o'clock and 1 minute. The air inside the Sterling Grand felt different now. Thinner, cleaner, as though it had been scrubbed by truth. The marble floor that had witnessed humiliation now stood ready to watch justice unfold. Amara Lewis moved to the center of the lobby. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her silence alone was gravity. The few remaining guests stood along the edges of the room, their phones recording, but their faces solemn. Everyone could feel that this was no longer a public scandal. It was judgment rendered in real time. Andre Collins stood a few steps behind her, posture straight, tablet ready. Lena Park and Clara Hayes waited by the counter, their eyes red from tears. The space that had once echoed with arrogance now trembled with anticipation. Amara looked at Gregory Hunt. He had returned to the lobby, summoned by Andre to sign final paperwork. His suit was wrinkled now, his hands unsteady. The defiance that had once shaped his voice had turned into dread. Mr. Hunt, Amara began, her tone even. You've spent the last 3 years in this building. You've spoken to hundreds of guests, supervised dozens of employees, and signed more than a few documents bearing my company's name. Tonight, you'll sign one more, but this one will define your legacy here. Gregory's throat bobbed. Please, Ms. Lewis, I've already resigned. Isn't that enough? It's a start, she said. But resignation is only one of 3 paths open to you tonight. She stepped closer to the counter, where Andre placed a small black digital clock beside her tablet. It began to tick softly, 60 seconds descending in quiet rhythm. You have 1 minute to choose, Amara said. 3 options. Her eyes flicked toward the glowing numbers. First, you may confirm your resignation and walk away quietly. You'll forfeit all severance but retain dignity in the record. The clock read 52 seconds. Second, you may retract your resignation and face termination for cause. That path includes public disclosure of your disciplinary file, every complaint, every ignored report. Transparency can be cleansing, but it is not kind. The numbers shifted to 45. Third, you may request a full internal investigation under corporate and media supervision. That process would take months, involve outside lawyers, and turn this lobby into a symbol of endless headlines. Her tone remained calm, not cold. I leave the choice to you. Gregory's face drained of color. He looked from Amara to the watching crowd, then to the ticking clock. 40 seconds. His breathing grew shallow. Please. I have a family, he whispered. I never meant. Amara cut him off softly. Intention is not immunity. Everyone in this room has a family. What makes us human is how we treat each other when no one's watching. 35 seconds. Lena wiped at her cheeks. Ms. Lewis, please. He's already broken. Maybe he can learn. Amara turned toward her, gentle but unwavering. We all can learn, Ms. Park. But learning starts with truth. You'll have your chance to rebuild. He must start with accountability. 25 seconds. Renee Park whispered into her live stream. She gave him 3 options. He's shaking. This is the realest moment I've ever seen. The comments flooded in. This is justice done right. 60 seconds feels like a lifetime. She's rewriting corporate culture live. Amara folded her hands behind her back, her voice steady as the ticking continued. Every leader faces a clock like this, Mr. Hunt. Some just never hear it. 20 seconds. Gregory closed his eyes. I'll take the first option, he said finally. I'll confirm the resignation. Amara nodded once. Andre, record the choice. Andre tapped his tablet. The electronic chime of confirmation filled the room, a single tone, crisp and final. The timer kept ticking until it hit 10 seconds, then faded out. Gregory's shoulders slumped. He whispered, I'm sorry. Amara's expression softened slightly. I believe you, but remember, apology is the floor, not the ceiling. What you build on it will define the rest of your life. He gave a slow nod. Yes, ma'am. She turned to Lena Park. Ms. Park, you stayed silent when you saw wrong. Silence is cheaper than courage, but it costs more in the end. You'll begin mandatory training tomorrow. No excuses, no exceptions. Lena's tears returned. Thank you for giving me another chance. I'm not giving it, Amara said. You're earning it now. Clara Hayes stepped forward, nervous but determined. Ms. Lewis, I laughed. I didn't mean to, but I did. Please let me stay. I want to help fix this place. Amara regarded her for a long moment. Clara, guilt only matters if it turns into growth. Stay, learn, and then teach others. You'll work directly under Ms. Park until further notice. Clara nodded vigorously. I won't waste the chance. Andre cleared his throat quietly. Ma'am, that covers everyone on the shift except me. Where do I stand? Amara's gaze warmed. You stood where integrity required you to. You saw wrong and hesitated to enforce it blindly. That's leadership. I'll need people like you to help rebuild. Andre's composure held, but there was pride behind his calm. Then I'm in, ma'am. Amara turned slightly toward the group, her voice low but carrying. Tonight began with humiliation. It ends with choice. Each of you decided who you are when no one else could define it for you. Remember this moment, not as punishment, but as a mirror. She paused, glancing at the guests who still lingered. For those who watched, whether here or online, I hope you see what accountability looks like. Not vengeance, not chaos, just truth served calmly. The chandelier light flickered above them, casting small reflections that shimmered across the marble floor like slow-moving water. It made the scene feel almost sacred, as if something greater than policy was being written in invisible ink across the air. Gregory turned to leave. Before he did, he stopped, then looked back at Amara. You said everyone can learn. Do you really believe that? She considered him. I do, she said quietly. But learning begins when we stop defending the lesson. He nodded faintly, a man stripped of pride but not of humanity. Then maybe I'll start tonight. Do, Amara said, because rebuilding isn't just for buildings, it's for people. He left without another word. Amara glanced around one final time. Then tonight, she said softly, the rebuilding starts. The guests didn't applaud. They didn't need to. Their silence felt like respect, the kind that doesn't seek attention but offers it. Renee whispered to her phone, It's done. He chose resignation. She chose grace. The clock above the desk turned to 11:07. The storm had passed, but the air still trembled with the charge it left behind. Amara closed her tablet, the screen dimming to black. For the first time that night, her shoulders relaxed. Justice had been served, not loudly, but precisely. And somewhere deep inside the quiet, a small truth shimmered. Mercy and firmness were never opposites. They were the balance that held the world steady. The lobby had the quiet of a chapel after a final hymn. Phones lowered, shoulders eased. Even the chandelier seemed to glow a shade warmer, as if the room itself had exhaled. Amara Lewis lifted her tablet once more, but this time her posture held something gentler than judgment. It held repair. Ms. Park, Ms. Hayes, Mr. Collins, she said, I'm putting this property into emergency restructure tonight. Her thumb hovered over a contact. You will hear the plan at the same time I deliver it. She tapped the speakerphone icon. A soft ring carried out into the lobby, followed by a clipped, assured voice. Elaine Brooks. Elaine, it's Amara. We are initiating a full reset at Sterling Grand Chicago. I'm speaking in a public area. You may assume we are being recorded. Understood, Elaine said smoothly. What do you need? First, immediate leadership support. Reassign Tanya McGill from Boston to Chicago, effective at sunrise. She will serve as interim general manager. Elaine did not hesitate. Tanya will be on a red-eye. She'll arrive before 6. Second, bring in Dr. Naomi Harris to lead empathy and equity training. Not a lecture, a workshop that changes habit. I want the first session tomorrow. Done, Elaine replied. I will confirm her call time within the hour. Amara looked at the gathered faces. Third, we are launching the Guest Dignity Initiative across this property tonight and chain-wide within 30 days. I want the first tools live before dawn. What are the components? Elaine asked. Amara turned the tablet so everyone could see. A clean page displayed 4 calm lines. Number 1, she said, a simple code guests can scan with their phones. It opens a direct line to corporate, bypassing local filters. Every message time-stamped, every voice heard. Anonymous if the guest prefers. Reports route to my office and to compliance simultaneously. Clara's shoulders lifted, the first hint of relief in her posture. That would have changed so many nights, she whispered. Number 2, Amara continued. Audio-enabled cameras at key points in the lobby and at the desk. No secrets, no surveillance creep. Signs will explain their purpose clearly. They are not for punishment. They are for truth. Andre gave a small nod. Truth makes my work simpler. Number 3, Amara said. Monthly reflection sessions led by Dr. Harris. Not checklists, conversations. Each session tied to measurable growth. Courtesy will no longer be a slogan on a poster. It will be a professional requirement. Lena swallowed. How will that be measured? With dignity metrics, Amara answered. Respectful interaction score. Time from complaint to resolution. Ratio of resolved issues to escalations. Raises and promotions will be linked to these measures as directly as they are to occupancy or revenue. Malcolm Reed let out a soft sound that might have been a laugh if it weren't so admiring. You just put manners on the balance sheet. Amara did not smile, but her eyes warmed. Manners are only the surface. Beneath them is belief. That is what we are training. Elaine's voice returned through the phone. And the fourth component? Community oversight, Amara said. A small, independent board that meets on site once each quarter. 3 members, a community liaison, a rotating guest representative, and a staff delegate not from management. They will publish a brief report that anyone can read. Dr. Lillian Carter? Elaine asked. She has done this for hospitals. Yes, Amara said. Invite her to chair it. Renee Park had kept her live stream running, but her narration had softened into something like wonder. They're building the fix in front of us, she murmured to her audience. The viewer count ticked upward. 21,000, then 23, then 25. Amara glanced at Renee without breaking stride. Ms. Park, she said, when this call ends, I will make a statement for your audience and for anyone else who needs to hear it. Lena drew a breath. Ms. Lewis, will we tell people we failed? We will, Amara said. Because it's true, and because honesty is the first door that opens change. Elaine's voice returned, brisk and ready. Tanya is boarding. Dr. Harris confirms availability. Legal has reviewed your draft policy language, and I've requested signage proofs for the code and the cameras. Do you want a press release tonight or at sunrise? Not a release, Amara replied. A conversation. We speak to the people in this room first. She ended the call and set the phone beside the tablet. The lobby listened. To everyone who stayed, she said, her voice low enough that people had to lean in. You saw us fail tonight. You saw contempt masquerade as professionalism. You saw silence bruise a room. I'm sorry. No one moved. Even the humming vents seemed to soften. We will not drown you in language, she continued. We will not ask you to forget. We will show you, day by day, what a promise looks like when it is kept. A hand rose in the back. The elderly Mr. Whitmore, tentative but sincere. Ma'am, he said, we've stayed here for years. We didn't know what to do. We just looked away. Amara met his eyes with kindness. Looking away is human, she said. Looking back is brave. If you choose to keep staying with us, we will do the same. Renee adjusted her grip on the phone. The chat is asking for specifics, she whispered, almost apologetically. What happens first, exactly? First, Amara said, you will see signs at the entrance and at the desk before morning. They will say, in plain words, that this is a place where every guest is a guest. The code will be live beneath those words. Second, beginning tomorrow, you will feel a difference in how the staff greets you, how they listen, how they make things right when they go wrong. Third, you will be asked for feedback. Brief, respectful, never exhausting. And when you speak, you will notice that the answers arrive faster. Clara found her courage. May I be the first to greet them tomorrow? She asked. May I say the words myself? Yes, Amara said, and mean them. Andre stepped forward, steady and present. I'll coordinate overnight installations and gather the team at 5:30 for a short huddle, he said. If anyone resists, I'll handle it. Handle it with dignity, Amara replied. We are not trading one form of harm for another. He inclined his head. Understood. From the bar, Malcolm lifted his glass of water. To the slow miracle of policy, he said softly. A few people smiled. Not many, but enough. Amara turned to Renee's lens. For everyone watching, she said, let this be the night a lobby became a lesson. We failed you this evening. We will not fail you again. If you visit us and feel anything less than welcome, use the code, or speak to the board, or write to my office. I will read it. I will act. The chat flooded the screen, not with outrage now, but with cautious hope. The trending tag began to shift. Sterling scandal slid downward as sterling reform climbed. Ms. Park, Amara said to Renee, when your stream ends, come see me upstairs. I would like to discuss a role in communications. If you can tell a story that keeps the truth intact, we could use your voice. Renee blinked hard. Yes, she said, then again, firmer. Yes. Amara gathered the tablet and phone. Mr. Collins, the lobby is yours until the interim team arrives. Ms. Park, Ms. Hayes, rest for a few hours. Then meet Dr. Harris in the conference room at 8. Wear something comfortable. You will be listening more than speaking. They nodded together, the smallest sign of a new beginning. In the hush that followed, Amara crossed to the center of the room and looked up at the chandelier. The crystals held the light like dew. For a heartbeat, the lobby seemed to exist outside of time, a place where harm had been named and the work of repair had begun. Good night, she said. We start early. She turned toward the elevator. As the doors glided open, the viewer count on Renee's screen settled at 25,000. The tag read simply, Sterling Reform. The doors closed, and the lobby exhaled again, not in relief, but in readiness. The next hours would be quiet, signs printed, codes tested, cables run with care. In the morning, a different lobby would wake. The city outside had quieted into its midnight rhythm. Occasional sirens, a drifting hum of traffic, the distant pulse of life that never fully sleeps. Inside the Sterling Grand, the lobby lights had been dimmed to a softer glow. What was once a stage for humiliation now felt more like a sanctuary waiting to heal. Amara Lewis stood near the center of the room, her tablet still in hand. The signs of change were already beginning. The maintenance crew, led by Andre Collins, was quietly placing framed notices by the entrance doors, each one carrying the same simple sentence: every guest is a guest. Beneath the words was a small square code that would go live at sunrise, connecting directly to corporate headquarters. She watched in silence as they worked. No one gave orders. No one spoke above a whisper. Even the air felt gentler. Lena Park approached cautiously, her steps slow on the marble floor. Ms. Lewis, she said, I just wanted to thank you for not firing me. I know I don't deserve to be standing here. Amara looked at her for a long moment before answering. Deserve is a word I use sparingly, she said. What we do next is what decides that. Lena nodded, tears threatening again. I understand. I'll earn it. Good, Amara replied. You'll begin by helping Clara train the morning staff. They'll look to you for example, not apology. Lena's throat tightened. I can do that. Clara Hayes came from behind the desk, holding a stack of envelopes. Ms. Lewis, these are the printed statements for guests who requested documentation. I wanted them ready before you left. Amara smiled faintly. You're learning already. Anticipation is half of empathy. The elevator chimed, and an older woman stepped out, her hair silver beneath a soft scarf. It was Dr. Lillian Carter, the community liaison Amara had invited to chair the new oversight board. She had arrived sooner than expected, still carrying her overnight bag. "Amara," she greeted warmly. "I caught the flight the moment I read your message. I wanted to see the ground before the foundation set." Amara extended her hand. "Welcome to Sterling Grand, Dr. Carter. You'll find plenty of rebuilding to oversee." Dr. Carter set her bag down and took in the sight of the lobby. The faint glow, the quiet crew, the guests who lingered not from curiosity now, but from awe. "It's a beautiful space," she said softly. "But beauty without fairness is decoration. I'm glad you called me." Renee Park stepped closer, still holding her phone but no longer streaming. "Dr. Carter, I've heard of you. You worked with the housing reform program in Atlanta, didn't you?" The older woman smiled. "I did. And you must be the young journalist who turned this story into a national conversation." Renee blushed. "I didn't mean to. It just happened." "Nothing just happens," Amara said, turning toward her. "You chose to press record. You chose to keep filming. That choice mattered." Renee hesitated, then asked the question that had been on her mind since the night began. "How do you stay calm after what they did to you?" Amara's expression softened. "Because hatred is exhausting," she said, "and reform is permanent. Anger burns hot but dies fast. Structure outlasts emotion." Dr. Carter nodded approvingly. "Spoken like someone who's learned that compassion and accountability share the same roof." Andre approached quietly. "Ma'am, the QR signs are all placed. System tests are running fine. I'll stay through the night to supervise installation." "Thank you, Mr. Collins," Amara said. "You've earned your rest, but I won't stop you if you prefer to keep working. Some people rebuild best with their hands." He smiled slightly. "It helps me think." From the corner, the elderly Whitmores rose from their armchairs. Mr. Whitmore adjusted his coat, while his wife clutched her handbag nervously. "Ms. Lewis," he began, "we wanted to say something before we left." Amara turned toward them, her posture relaxed. "Go ahead." Mrs. Whitmore took a hesitant step forward. "We've stayed here for nearly 15 years. We've seen wonderful service and moments like tonight. And we always looked away. We're sorry for that." Amara shook her head gently. "Don't apologize to me. Just promise that next time you see something unjust, anywhere, you won't look away." Mr. Whitmore's eyes glistened. "You have our word." Dr. Carter placed a hand over her heart. "And that," she said softly, "is where change begins. Not in policy, but in practice." Renee lowered her phone completely. "Ms. Lewis, when you offered me that communications role earlier, were you serious?" Amara nodded. "I was. You understand voice and you understand timing. This brand needs both." Renee swallowed hard. "I've never worked in corporate before." "Good," Amara said. "That means you still speak like people listen." Laughter rippled gently through the room. Dr. Carter moved closer to Amara. "I'll need access to your data by morning," she said. "Guest feedback, staff files, anything related to discrimination complaints. We'll build transparency into the architecture itself." "It's all yours," Amara said. "By the time the sun rises, you'll have full access." Dr. Carter looked around once more. "You know, I've visited many lobbies after scandals. Usually they feel poisoned. This one feels alive. Maybe because it finally told the truth," Amara said quietly. Renee glanced toward the entrance, where the maintenance team was finishing the final sign. "I think people will come here just to see that plaque," she said. Amara nodded. Then let them come. Let them see that even the finest marble can reflect a change of heart. The group fell into an easy silence. The hotel no longer buzzed with fear or adrenaline. It breathed, calm and alive. Somewhere above them, a printer hummed softly as the first morning materials began to roll out. Amara looked toward Andre. After tonight, you'll transition into a new role. Guest relations manager. You earned that title long before I arrived. He blinked in surprise. Thank you, ma'am. I won't disappoint you. I know, she said. Lena and Clara exchanged glances, hope mixing with nervous energy. Renee whispered to herself, it's really happening. They're rewriting everything. Amara turned once more toward the quiet lobby. The marble, the chandeliers, even the night air. They all seemed to belong to something new now. Every story has a moment when it decides what it wants to be remembered for, she said softly. Tonight is that moment for Sterling Grand. Dr. Carter smiled. And for you? Amara considered the question. For me, she said, I'd like to be remembered as the woman who believed dignity could be policy. The room absorbed her words like light soaking into stone. Outside, dawn had not yet arrived, but the faintest line of silver touched the horizon through the glass doors. The lobby's reflections shimmered faintly, catching the first suggestion of daybreak. Amara gathered her things, ready to go upstairs at last. Good night, everyone, she said. Tomorrow, the day staff will walk into a new world. Let's make sure it's ready to receive them. And as she left, no one spoke. They simply watched her go. The woman who had entered as a stranger, endured humiliation, and left as a symbol of reform. The night she changed everything, the Sterling Grand learned how to breathe again. 3 months later, the Sterling Grand Chicago no longer felt like the same building. The morning light that once revealed its flaws now poured through the glass, as if proud of what it saw. The marble floors, once cold and polished only for appearance, now gleamed because people cared enough to keep them that way. The scent of coffee from the cafe drifted softly across the lobby, mingling with quiet laughter and the steady rhythm of a place reborn. Amara Lewis arrived just after sunrise. She no longer needed an entourage or announcement. The staff knew her by name, and the sound of her heels on the floor drew warm nods instead of nervous silence. Andre Collins met her near the entrance, his new badge shining beneath the morning light. It read, Guest Relations Manager. Morning, ma'am, he said with quiet pride. Everything's ready. Perfect, Amara replied. How did the night shift go? Smooth, Andre said. 2 minor issues, both resolved within 5 minutes. Complaint response time is down 70% since last quarter. Amara smiled. That's the kind of math I like hearing. She walked with him toward the center of the lobby. On the far wall, between 2 golden elevators, hung a new bronze plaque. The letters had been engraved in clean, timeless lines, in recognition of the dignity owed to every guest. Sterling Grand Chicago, Reformed 2025. The light struck the metal softly, turning it into a mirror of gold. Guests paused to read it, some taking photos, others just smiling quietly. It wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. Clara Hayes, now wearing a supervisor pin, approached with the morning report. Her eyes sparkled with nervous excitement. Ms. Lewis, I just wanted you to know we're officially at 4.8 stars on guest reviews. Our response rate is above 90%, and our monthly revenue grew 38% since the audit. Amara nodded approvingly. 4.8 stars, she repeated gently, translating the number as if savoring its meaning. Not perfection, but progress. That's exactly what we wanted. Clara laughed softly. I think the stars are following your name, ma'am. Or maybe they're finally following good work, Amara said with a smile. From across the lobby, Lena Park approached, holding a tray of drinks. I thought you might need this, she said, offering a cup. Oat milk latte, extra foam, the one you asked for in the early meetings. Amara accepted it. Thank you, Lena. How's the training program? Lena straightened with pride. All departments have completed Phase 1. Dr. Harris says our empathy index, her term, not mine, has doubled in 2 months. Tell her it's just the beginning, Amara said. Real empathy doesn't peak, it deepens. They walked together toward the reception desk, where a digital screen cycled through guest comments. One read, I felt seen. Another, they remembered my name. A third simply said, thank you for making me feel human. Each message scrolled in soft gold letters, forming a quiet testament to change. Malcolm Reed entered from the revolving doors, suitcase in hand. He was checking out after another stay. Ms. Lewis, he said warmly, I wanted to see the miracle with my own eyes. No miracle, Amara replied. Just maintenance, the kind that lasts. He looked at the plaque, then back at her. I heard Harvard Business Review is writing a case study on this. They are, she said, her tone modest. Title's still tentative. I suggested When Dignity Became Policy. Malcolm chuckled, catchy and accurate. He signed his checkout slip, then added, You turned a scandal into a system. Most people would have settled for survival. Amara's smile was quiet but certain. Survival is the floor. We build higher. Dr. Lillian Carter entered next, her tablet tucked beneath her arm. Quarterly oversight report ready, she said. Guest satisfaction 89%, staff retention up 40%, no new complaints under review. Beautiful numbers, Amara said softly. Numbers that tell a human story. Dr. Carter nodded. That's the key. A company grows when it stops measuring only money. Andre approached again, carrying a folder. Corporate wants to expand the Dignity Initiative chain-wide, 890 hotels by next quarter. Amara exhaled slowly, letting the number roll off her tongue like a promise. 890, she said. Then the map will finally match the mission. They moved together toward the entrance where sunlight painted long, amber lines across the floor. Guests checked in with calm efficiency. Staff smiled, not the practiced kind, but the kind that reached the eyes. The atmosphere held warmth, not from luxury, but from presence. Amara paused by the doors. I still remember that night, she said quietly. How heavy silence felt. How much power was hidden in restraint. Dr. Carter nodded. You turned silence into evidence. That's how change begins. A voice behind them spoke gently, and how it continues. It was Renee Park, walking in with a small camera slung around her shoulder. She wore a corporate badge now, communications department. Morning, Ms. Lewis, she said. We're filming the new staff documentary today. Would you like to record your final message for it? Amara glanced at the lobby, then at the bronze plaque gleaming under sunlight. Yes, she said. Here, by the plaque. Renee adjusted her camera. Ready when you are. Amara faced the lens, her voice soft, melodic, almost like the beginning of a lullaby. When this story began, a card was crushed under a heel. Tonight, that card could open any door in this building. But the real change isn't the marble or the cameras or the code on the wall. It's the people. The ones who learned, the ones who stayed, and the ones who decided that dignity is not a courtesy, but a condition. Her eyes lifted toward the plaque as she continued. If you've ever been treated as less, know this. Your worth is not negotiable. Your dignity is policy. And when systems forget that, remind them. Renee lowered the camera slowly. That's perfect, she said quietly. No edits needed. Amara smiled. Then let it play. She turned to Andre and Clara. The next quarter's yours. Keep the doors open and the hearts sharper. We will, Andre said. Guests passed by, unaware they were stepping into history. A small child pointed to the plaque and asked his mother, "What does dignity mean?" The woman smiled. It means everyone matters. Amara caught the words as she walked toward the exit. She didn't interrupt. The best definitions, she thought, were the ones people found on their own. Outside, the morning air was bright, cool, and honest. Cars rolled past, the city moving as it always had. But somewhere inside its rhythm, one lobby had changed the pulse of what hospitality could mean. The glass doors closed behind her, catching her reflection for just a moment. Calm, centered, no longer the stranger who had once been doubted. She glanced back once more, watching sunlight fall across the plaque. The letters gleamed like quiet music. Every guest is a guest. It was simple. It was enough.